There we go. Look at that. Our create event looks so much cleaner than it did before. So you can see we have an array of weapons, and you can see we got fixed weapons, turrets. Cool. So we didn't really change too much from the last time, except the shields look a little bit better, and then the code is quite a bit cleaner. So I think this is good stuff here. What's up, everybody? Morning, Axe Wizard here. So I slept on it, and I had an idea that I wanted to implement before I have to clock in for work today. And what I was thinking is that this weapons array here is starting to get pretty insane. So, you know, like this is a lot. I kind of want to clean this up a little bit. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to create some weapon types, and then from there I'm going to make functions or scripts that basically just return this type. So instead of having this, I can just have something like SCR light blaster or something, right? And then you can just have like a bunch of these SPR light turret and so on and so forth. So rather than having all of this here, and then what we can do is with these functions we can pass in instead of having to do our calculations like we were doing last night, where we were just sort of doing the slope of a triangle and get like using the Pythagorean theorem and stuff like that to get the offset length and stuff. I think what we can do is we can just pass in you know, last night we were doing, I was basically calculating from the sprite, like where it's at from its relative, like from its start position. So I think we can just pass those in, and then we should be good to go. And yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to try to accomplish. So let's pop open SCR types, and I'm just going to put weapons in here. And let's just do weapon light we'll just do light cannon, light cannon, and we'll just make a few like every time we want to create a new weapon, we can just add this type here, and then we can modify our script later on to return that type of weapon. So weapon light turret, and we'll just do light, if I can type, light turret. Cool. So now we have these types. What we can do is that I'm gonna create, you know, I'm just gonna go up here, I'm gonna right click my player ship, I'm gonna close all but this script. I'm gonna create a new script, and what should this one be named? SCR, I'm just gonna name it SCR weapon, because it's gonna return or it's gonna give us a weapon. This function, oh, I need to zoom in more because it didn't do that last time I opened it. It resets the zoom every time you open Game Maker, so that's my bad. All right, so we've got that. Now, all right, so this function takes in the type of weapon to be created and the relative XY coordinate of the sprite of where the weapon should be in relation to its position on the sprite. That probably doesn't make any sense. That's a bit wordy. I'm just going to keep it there. That's fine. So the arguments that we're going to want to take for this are we're going to take the weapon that we want, and then we're going to do I'm going to do rel x and rel y for the relative x and relative y. So what the relative means is like in relation to the sprite position. So, you know, last night we were looking at our placeholder sprite here for our new big ship, and when we were going in here, we actually had a grid and we were calculating, like, you know, the x and y manually here based on this. So this is the xy relative to where the ship is. It's relative to this center area. So that's what that means there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do so first things first, calculate where calculate the length and direction, because we need to have that here. So offset length. So what we're going to do here is how we were doing that before was we were just doing, so we were calculating the direction. So we're going to do var dir, and then we're also going to do len length and dir and direction. So what we're going to do here is dir is just going to simply equal the point direction, which is what we were doing last night. And I'm just going to zero it out, and then we'll just do rel x rel y. Okay, so that'll point the direction that we need to go. And then we also needed to calculate the length and direction. So how do we do square root gms2 square root? Oh, there's a built-in function for it too. Square root, perfect. So we can do our math here. So remember, we're trying to find the length, which is basically the slope of the triangle. So x, y, we need to find this slope. So we're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So let's see. Number functions. So we have square, which squares it, and then we have square root. So cool. This will work perfectly. So length equals rel x, and we want to square that. I think that works. Square. That was it, right? SQR, yep. So square plus len, we're going to do square again. Len y. And that gives us, oh wait, no, rel y, sorry. Rel y. And then we want to basically square root whatever the result of this is. So we're going to sqrt. And there you go. So that should be our basic calculation there. So sweet. And then what this is going to do now is determine which weapon, let's see, return the expected weapon type. So W is the weapon that we're passing in. So what we're going to do is switch. A switch statement is like an if statement that just has a bunch of possibilities. So it's like, if this, then do this. If this, if this, if this. It's basically just a shorthand way of doing that. In fact, if we bring open, let me pop open the actual help manual. Open manual, here we go. So we do switch. There we go. So switch, expression, break, okay. So what we can do here, switch W. We're going to do case, and we can do weapon, light cannon. And then here we can just return So what we're going to do is we're just going to basically return all this stuff here. So we're going to copy this. So we are returning an object that has all of this stuff here. So weapon type primary. Okay. So this is the stuff that we're not going to need. This is going to be calculated here by our length and dir. So we can do length, and then we can do direction. And the rest of this stuff is like basically relative to this weapon. So this will be updated once the ship does its thing. These are determined by what we're passing in here. So now what I can do is I can actually replace this with SCR weapon. And what I can do is I can pass in weapon light cannon. And then for the relative X and Y, which thankfully I still have. Let me make sure this is still going to work. Get this out of the way so I can see. Yep. So we should allow negatives for the point and direction because we want to get that right. But then we also want to, for our length calculation, we do not want any negative values. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to force if rel x is less than 0, that means it's negative. We're going to say rel x, and I think that we just times it by like a -1 or something, and then that will, like, 2 negatives make a positive. My early morning math is working. So let's say we do -1, right? -1 times, how do I do a negative? Times 1. Yeah, so this will be fine. So rel x times -1. And this will convert it to positive. And we're just going to do the same thing for rel y, not 7y. There we go. Give it a sec to load. It doesn't like that. Oh, rel x equals rel x. There we go. I'm a dum-dum. There we go. Cool. So now we can handle negatives in our function here. So what we can do is that we can do 46 and then -28. 46, -28. Cool. And then I'm going to basically just I'm going to comment out the fixed weapons here. I'm going to just I can't do a comment like other 1, 2, 3, 4. So this should be our 4 main cannons here. And then just to test this, we're going to just populate the other values here. So 48 and 20, -20. 48 -20. Okay. 48 -20. This will be 48 plus 20, actually, sorry. And this will be 48, 28. Yes. So if I save this and run it, in theory, this should work. It does. You can see that we have our four main cannons on the front. They're created in the same spot, and they shoot where they're supposed to go and everything like that. So cool. This is already turning out. So this is much cleaner to see what type of weapons that we have on the ship. So rather than having this huge create event that's got, you know, billions of lines of code here, we can just have this script return these objects for us, and that's how we populate our weapons array. So now we're going to do our turret type. So we're going to minimize this that way I can see. And now normally you would have a break after this stuff here, but since we have a return, basically as soon as it hits this case, it's going to just return this stuff here, and in theory this should end the function. But I'm going to add break after just for, because that's normally what you do in a switch. So now I'm going to add weapon light turret, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to return. Let me indent this. Let's actually make this a little bigger, that way we can see better. And I'm going to put a break here as well. So what we can do is just same thing. We're just going to replace these with our calculated amount. And so this also allows us to just change weapon values just in one spot, because previously if I want to change like the cannon range, I would have to go through each of these and change this here. And not only for this ship, but if I add other ships as well, I would have to change it for those too, and that would just be a nightmare. So if we just consolidate all this stuff to just one place, one source of truth, then I can come in here and I can change this whenever I want, and I can easily tweak these. So this should work a lot better. So we have weapon light turret. Let's see how I want to scroll up in the code window here. So the other one's traveling 15. This is like going half as fast. Let's just crank it up to 10. That way it's got a little bit longer of a range. And yeah, so that should be fine. So we sacrifice a little bit of the power because you have a turret that can aim anywhere. So this should work fine. Weapon sprite, placeholder turret, angle that'll be set by the ship. Sector, we're still going to work that stuff out, but that's fine. I wonder if I should condense this even further, because there's a lot of things here that we have to include that we're not going to be modifying directly upon creation. So maybe I should set up a script that just returns just a generic weapon type that has all the fields like zeroed out, and then we can modify these as needed. So the cool thing about scripts is that you can declare multiple functions inside of a single script. So what I might do here is I might just declare another function. So function, we'll name this one SCR. I'm just going to say blank weapon. We'll say SCR fresh weapon. And this isn't going to take any argument, and it's just going to return our weapon type here. So let's just copy this. We're going to de-indent this, that way it makes sense. So weapon type, we're just going to keep this as like the basic stuff here. You know, we've got placeholder, attack timer max. We'll have to set that. Projectile speed, we'll just zero all this stuff out because this will be expected to be set by my function that I was working on earlier. Fixed, false, weapon sprite, placeholder, turret, that works fine. I'm going to change this to no one because I think that that also works for sprites. Let me just check that. Sprites. This doesn't really give me sprite manipulation. You know what we're looking for? We're just looking for sprite index. Sprite index. And this variable returns the index of the current sprite for the instance, or -1 if the instance has no sprite associated with it. So we're going to use that same value here. We're just going to do -1. I wonder if that's what no one evaluates to. Instance keywords. No one. This is value -4. Okay. So that's different. So gotcha. So angle 0, sector min, sector max, target, no one. Okay. So this just returns a fresh weapon. So the reason why I'm doing this is so that if I need to modify my weapon type, I can just do that in one spot. Because if I go to add on to this later, I'm going to have to do this for however many weapons I want. Whereas I only really want to handle the changes I'm making to the weapon here. So what we can do is we can modify this to just be var wep, because we're already using W. And this will just be scr fresh weapon. Does it let us do it? Fresh weapon. There we go. So I'm going to save this, and then what we're going to do is that we're just going to change the values that we want. So for example, we want weapon type and projectile, those are already set. Weapon sprite, we do want to set this. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to just say weapon sprite equals, okay. An empty weapon type. Change the values that we need to okay. So now what we can do is that we can do, so weapon sprite, projectile sprite here, that's I'm gonna set that as well, just because we will be setting that when it comes down to it. There we go. We don't need the comma. Wep, let's see, attack timer is always going to be 0, but attack timer max, we do want to set this. So let's set this to 20. Wep dot projectile speed. We already zeroed all that stuff out. So projectile speed. I'm just going to copy these. And I'll modify them how they should be here in a second. So wep.expire. So this seems counterintuitive at the start because, you know, we're just creating this empty weapon. We're just changing what we want about it. but this will be helpful in the long run, especially when I go to expand my weapon type. My weapon struct here that I'm using, when I go to expand this, I gotta hurry. I don't have much time left. This will make it a lot easier to expand it. So once I change this type, I can just come in here to my weapons and I can change the I can add in whatever fields they need that way. So weapon offset deer. We also want to do damage wep damage min equals 3. Okay. Wep, and we want to de-indent that. Wep dot fixed equals, and we'll get rid of this. There we go. So now we should have everything that we needed there. Everything else is basically 0 value. Yeah. We'll also add in these two because you might need those. Weapon type. Boom. Okay. Web proj type. There we go. So now what we can do, we can just return web. Okay. So we do a similar process up here as well. And what we are going to do, primary, basic, attack timer, light turret, yeah. So the projectile speed's going to be different for the light turret. Fixed is going to be false. And we do have these ones that, well, we don't need angle. We do need sector. Target's going to be updated by the thing, so we do need sector. So we will add that in. Wep sector. Get rid of the trailing comma. And we will just do wep sector max. So projectile speed, all that stuff is fine. For the turret sprite, we actually want, or for the weapon sprite, we want SPR placeholder turret. And I think that should be what we need there, so we can just get rid of this now. Save. So, just to make sure that this is all going to work as well, I'm going to do one of these. SCR create cannon, light turret. And what I'm going to do is I think these are our turrets. Yeah. So what we can do here is we got 39 minus 12. 39. Oops, I'm doing the wrong ones. Turrets. Fixed weapons. There we go. So, what was it? 39 negative 12. 39 negative 12. Next one is going to be 39 plus 12. Okay. Then we've got minus 20, negative 20, negative 15. Okay. Negative 20. negative 15. This one will also be negative 20. And then the Y will actually be positive 15. So now that we've got those, I'm going to comment out these ones here just to make sure that this works. Oops. Save. Now I'm going to run it and see what happens. Look at that. We got our turrets. Everything still fires. Cool. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to fix before I have to get ready for work is I need to... I'm not happy with how the shields are colliding. Like to where the shields look like they are going in a different spot. So I want to pop open my object for my projectile. So we're calling the script create shields impact, which we created last night. So what we're going to do here, where's my scripts? Create shield impact. So we're basically pointing it from the direction of where the ship is to where the projectile basically hit. And that's not turning out so well. So what I might do is I might just copy this. I'm going to comment this out for right now. And all I'm going to simply do is that the shield image angle is just going to equal my image angle. Plus 180, which will turn it around. So this should look a little better here. So if we shoot this guy, there you go. That looks much better. So the shield just always goes in the direction of where it was being shot at, which is perfectly fine. There we go. That looks better. That looks a lot better. And cool. So we solved that thing. And then the last thing I want to do is how do we hide the cursor? So we do GMS2 hide cursor. How to make the cursor invisible. You could just disable display cursor in global game settings or use Windows set cursor command. So let me look that up. I guess I could just Google cursor. Oh, we could actually set our cursor sprite. Okay. So we don't even need like that object that I created earlier. Object cursor. Okay, cool. Sweet. So I'm not going to delete that object. What I am going to do is I'm going to go into my room and I am going to delete it from the room. And then just to test this theory, we can go here to object ship here. I guess now that we prove that all this stuff works, I can get rid of this commented out stuff. There we go. And I think what I'll do is I'll move this. There we go. Look at that. Our create event looks so much cleaner than it did before. So you can see we have an array of weapons, and you can see we got fixed weapons, turrets. Cool. Before I go too much farther, I want to do CR weapon. And I'm just going to copy and paste this stuff here. So this documents how the weapon is supposed to look. So that works fine. So cool. Now to do, maybe move this in a better spot, or is this fine? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say window set. Oh, actually, no. I think it was just cursor sprite, right? Cursor sprite equals SPR. Cursor. Save. So now, if I run this, look at that. So my cursor, my cursor shows up, but I also want to hide the cursor. So I can do window set cursor. What does this do? Windows set cursor. Okay, so I can just say CR none, because this is the constant that they give me. So if we do CR none, does this like get rid of the cursor entirely, or does it just... Cool. So now we have our cursor sprite of where we're going to be shooting. And yeah. So we didn't really change too much from the last time, except the shields look a little bit better, and then the code is quite a bit cleaner. So I think this is good stuff here. This is all fine. Cool. So now we can easily add more weapon types to our SCR weapon here. So this will return us a weapon, and yeah. Anyway, I have to get ready for work so I can do not fun programming. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode.